Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final recap video of the second Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Tour event of 2025. We started with 12 players. Well, we're still at 12 players because a bunch of them still play. But we have a grand final match between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. And today, Hikaru has to win to force a tiebreak and potentially steal the first place spot all for himself. Now, both of them, by finishing top two, qualify for the next event, which will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the third place match between Fabiano Caruana and Vincent Keimer also has something up for grabs. The third place winner also qualifies to Las Vegas, so it will either be Vincent Keimer or Fabiano. And Fabiano leads that match. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, also I will give you a little recap of. And, as always, for basically the next 3 weeks, I will be telling you about the Europe Tour, Brussels, London, Vienna, Berlin, Munich, and Warsaw, Poland. And for Brussels and London, U18 GothamChess, you can get a ticket for 50% off. Tickets are slowly selling out, so I will see you there. And if you don't know what I'm doing live on stage, a little bit of stand-up comedy, some live guests, the ELO. I will have special guests. I will interview them. We'll have a lot of fun. I'll play exhibition matches, blitz, blindfold, hand and brain, etc. The one I'm excited about the most is Berlin. Yeah, probably Berlin. In Berlin, I will be talking to Judith Polgar, the greatest woman to ever play. So check out the tickets. Berlin's still available. Here we go. Hikaru has to win the game. And if he wins the game, we will get many more Magnus and Hikaru games, as they will have to play tiebreaks. We also have these matches. Here we go. Hikaru opened up with the move b4. All right, the idea, obviously long-term, he wants to put something over here. He wants to take space. I think Hikaru kind of identified the position as sort of an English style. And, you know, in those types of positions, white plays on the queen side with the pawn and in front of the queen. Magnus now responds with one of the best moves. He plays c6. Now, the move c6 is very fascinating because it's considered the best move, yet I have absolutely no idea why. The computer liked a few things, but in general, c6 is considered the best move. I guess it blocks this, and also it blocks the potential expansion, but your knight can't go to that square, and I guess maybe, you know, black just wins a little bit of time here, so white has to make a move responding. I don't know, but it's the best move, and Magnus seems to understand that. g6 played, now attacking Hikaru's rook, but Hikaru clearly, you know, shows why he played b4. He immediately offers a trade of the dark-squared bishops, which Magnus declines. Interesting. The best move here for white is to play a4. And generally what you see in this freestyle format is just sort of like absent-minded, very aggressive space capturing mechanisms, particularly on the side of the board. Like, it's very frequent in this format that you play a4, b4. You just take as much space as possible, particularly when you have a bishop on the other side of the board facing that direction, and also when there is a queen and the rook behind. It's just good to, like, gain space. So, yeah, Hikaru plays f4, though, which is fine. But now Magnus understands the position slightly better, and he plays a5. And the thing is, black is actually happy to take with the rook. And if you attack the rook, it's actually more than happy to just stay in your territory. And then if you attack the rook, black is more than happy to just, like, build behind the rook. This format is just so weird. It's so weird. It's like normally bringing out the rook on the edge of the board is terrible in chess because the rook has nowhere to go. In normal traditional chess, like, the rook cannot just simply start attacking in the beginning of the game because the starting setup is very solid and has no real weaknesses. Well, Hikaru plays a3, and now Magnus castles, right? And so to castle this way, you do this, and to castle this way, you would need to move the knight and the queen, so it's probably not going to happen. Hikaru plays knight f3, knight f2, and Hikaru takes an approach in this game, which is, I need to win, but I'm not going to go guns blazing at the opponent. Like, sometimes you run forward at the opponent, and they take one step backwards, and they throw a counter cross, kind of like Dominic Reyes, Nikita Krylov. Unless you didn't watch that fight, then don't worry. Yeah, you run right into a punch, and, you know, you end up on the floor. Hikaru plays very patiently. So you're going to notice knight to g4, Magnus trading off the dark-squared bishop. And, you know, Hikaru just moving the knight out of the way. There's no real idea behind this move other than declining a trade, not helping black activate the pieces, and just sort of keeping the game going. Like, you know, black has to make moves. Black has to make moves. Magnus plays f6. This is a multi-purpose move. f6 has many ideas all in one. And what's funny is it took Magnus 1 minute and 1 second to play that move. It's the best move. Like, if you let Stockfish run in this position, in every variation, that it, you know, every move for black, either now or in a move, suggests f6. Just fascinating. Just the best move. Just 61 seconds. Just f6. Now, let me explain what's so good about this move. Number one, obviously, building block. You got to think of pawns as little building blocks, little Legos. He wants to take the center, right? Number two, it restricts. It restricts white from entering with the knights. Number three, it opens up the f7 square for either this knight or this knight. So either that knight will go to d6 or one of these knights is going to go to f7, which will further prepare the move e5. And last but not least, it blocks the attack on the king. This move has like 4 different ideas. And when I explain them to you, you sit there going, oh, wow, this is why I watch Levy. Because he's really handsome, he's really good at explaining chess concepts, and he's also really humble. And I appreciate all of those qualities about my favorite chess YouTuber. Yeah, but it's just, you know, to play this move on your own is very difficult. And by the way, there's knight f7, and there's knight d6, and there's knight h6, right? So all of these things are happening. Magnus activating the light square bishop. Maybe he's going to go here. More than anything, though, this is not an offensive move right now. It's very much a defensive move. It's protecting the king and disallowing white any sort of access. But should black get an opportunity in the future, of course, you do have to think about pawn expansion as well. Now we have a little moment here. Hikaru moves the knight back because it doesn't really have anywhere to go. Magnus immediately re-offers a trade of knights. Hikaru goes here, and Magnus does this. This is taunting. This is like in basketball when you dunk on a player and then you stare them down or step over them. That's what that is. Magnus on the move, knight g4, spent about 2 minutes, and he went back because, again, he doesn't have to play for a win. Magnus just has to not lose this game. So he's more than happy to make it difficult for Hikaru to come up with a plan. Hikaru just moves the bishop forward 1 square because, again, you just have to make moves. Now, maybe Hikaru has an idea to play h3, g4. This would be, obviously a slight provocation. He would be moving pawns in front of his king, but he would be restricting black a little bit. And again, you just have to play. Both sides also still have 8 pawns. They have both of their fences, right? So, you're still looking at pawn breaks basically everywhere in the position. Magnus plays knight f7. Now he has finished the entire knight journey. He's still waiting. Hikaru now moves that knight to the center. Now Magnus pokes the other knight out to c4, forces the queen to move, and decides, okay, I'm just going to trade. I'm going to trade the pawns, and I'm going to trade the rooks. So now I've traded a pawn, I've traded a rook, I've moved Hikaru's rook all the way over there, and he's not doing anything important on this side of the board. So now it's time, as I pull Hikaru this way, I pull his body this way, now we come right down the middle. I've supported this with pawn, knight, knight, queen. I mean, that move is begging to be played. e5, trade, and even though it is a weakening of the position in some sense, right? Because the king is still on that diagonal, it's Hikaru who has to make a retreating move, and Magnus just plays a very nice move, just brings the queen to the center, and yet, ironically, despite that being a very logical series of moves, putting the knight on c4, here, supporting the f6 move with the move e5, it's actually the worst position he's had all game, which is sort of fascinating. Like, you go here, Magnus was better. It's minus 0.2. But you go all the way to queen d6, it's plus 0.4. 0.3. It was 0.38, and then the computer reconsidered. And now Hikaru finds the best move, knight a5. This is the best move. So it's the best move because you're removing black's most active piece. You're moving a level of protection from the center. And when the knight takes, it didn't have to take, but it was going to be taken. Now Hikaru improves the position with pawn takes a5. This is an improvement. Why is it an improvement? Well, the pawn structure goes out to the edge of the board. So if this pawn ever became a pass pawn, it would be a severe problem for black. Number two, you open up the b file, and you have a very clear plan of attack against the weakest point of Magnus's position, which is the pawn on b7. If the pawn on b7 collapses, this pawn promotes. Also, these pawns are very weak. So everything is good. Magnus here once again plays the best move. If I ask you in this position to come up with the best move for black, it's very difficult. The best move for black in this position is king g8. That move doesn't even begin to make sense. But the point is quite straightforward. Black wants to play e4. And by playing e4, you create a blockade against the light squared bishop. You also win connect 4, which is a mini game. Then you bring the knight out, and you open up the queen, and then when you bring the knight out, you open up the rook. So the move e4 is just pure counterplay. Like, White would love to play rook b1, knight c5. He doesn't have time. He has to play e4 himself. And yet, this is still around the best position that Hikaru has had. Here, Hikaru has to play, instead of bishop takes c4, which is what he played, he has to play knight c5, trying to take back the pawn with the knight. And when knight g5 happens, he has to play h4, knight f3, take this, allow this, and king f2. He has to sacrifice a pawn to create a dark squared blockade. Look at this position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 9 pieces on the dark squares, and black is unable to break through. This is what the computer suggests as the top line. And then you play knight e4, then you play d3, and you just try to put some pressure on the black position. I mean, if Hikaru found this, they would have come to the board and made him pee in a cup at the board, all right? There would have been no fair play check after the game. They would have been like, come here, hide the camera. You got it. No way. This is not, I mean, I don't even know what this is. The computer recommends that you don't even take the pawn back. Hikaru does take the pawn back, but here's the problem. On an open board, the knight and the bishop and the rook are just sufficient. Magnus has a weakness, but he offsets that weakness with very energetic play. Bishop h5 is h3 is a great move, and the next move is queen f6 and knight g5, and he's just in time. He doesn't let Hikaru generate any momentum. Hikaru comes back and plays defense, and just e4. Very, very practical move. e4 is a queen attack on Hikaru's rook, who moves the rook, and that's it. Hikaru is stuck. He's just stuck. What's funny is that it looks like Magnus is attacking Hikaru. He's not. If anybody's got long-term problems, it's black. His pawn on e4 is weak. The pawn on b7 is weak, but Hikaru can't move. He can't just go here. That would be checkmate. So as much as this is offensive, it's actually a defensive setup for black. But, you know, the best defense is a good offense or something like that. So that pawn is hanging. Hikaru here looking around. He opts for bishop takes e4, knight h3. And if Magnus takes the knight, Hikaru takes the knight in the center. Magnus here plays a desperado. That's what that's called, desperado. He's going to lose his knight anyway, so he might as well win a pawn back. And what ends up happening is this. This is rook and 3 versus rook and 3. It's not winnable. You're going to go win a pawn, but so is Magnus, and Hikaru offers a draw because he won't win this position. The only way to beat Magnus in this position would be with a baseball bat. And they don't provide those at the tournament venue. So the final is over. Magnus Carlsen wins a very, very nice final, I have to say. Yesterday, he played quite well until Hikaru played quite well, and then the game ended sort of with a one-move mistake. And then today, yeah, I mean, this was good play from Magnus. The dude is still the best player in the world. I was, you know, I am kind of like a mini sports journalist / sportscaster in the world of chess. And my role is to, you know, cast a little bit of doubt as to whether Magnus Carlsen, at certain days or certain moments, is not the best player in the world, if anybody has overtaken him. And in freestyle, it was looking like it was maybe debatable. I don't think it's debatable. I think last tournament, Vincent Keimer pulled off an incredible run. This tournament, he can still finish 3rd or 4th. But no, I think all things being equal, yeah, Magnus is still the best, and he wins the Paris event. And we will see him in Las Vegas. Now, this one. All right, we will compare openings, by the way, right? We should always compare openings. Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces, he also has to not lose, right? Vincent Keimer, Vincent has to generate some sort of chances. He also plays b4, by the way, Fabi, just like Hikaru. Vincent goes a different direction, though. And keep in mind, Vincent needs to be provocative, right? So to win a game of chess, sometimes you actually have to almost lose a game of chess. You have to play very provocatively, okay? So in this game, yeah, Vincent did that. Vincent basically went like this. Like, he let Fabi throw punches at him, and he was provoking Fabi very much, right? G4, F5, already generating a very clear plan of attack, right? All of this. And now Vincent has to defend himself. Like again, sometimes to get a winning position, you have to provoke a very messy, complicated game. C6, activating the queen. But after bishop e5, yeah, Vincent just has to lose a rook. And clearly the provocation was slightly overly provocative. The computer wanted Vincent to play g takes f5 here and try to, like, just take a pawn. And on rook g1, try to, like, protect himself and run around with the king. But then Fabi would have opened up with c4 at any moment, activating the queen. Yeah, I'm just not sure. What ended up happening is he has to lose a rook, which Fabiano doesn't even capture. Remember, Fabi doesn't have to get into a crazy battle here. And Fabi, quite literally, did not take the rook. The rook is just trapped. He just takes on c6. He plays pawn takes g6. He's just opening up the position. Then he plays knight d4, activating his bishop, threatening queen takes f7. Rook f8 has to be played. Then he takes the knight in the center of the board. Then he plays knight c4. This rook has just been standing there. It's been standing there for about 10 moves now. Finally, Vincent says, all right, look, I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to give up the queen. I'm going to play knight e6, and then I'm going to take this bishop, and then we're going to make a little bit of a comeback, but Fabi's just up a queen. I mean, listen, no disrespect to Fabiano Caruana, but I think I would trust him to win the game up a queen. And, you know, knight f5 is played. And if takes, there's this attack, right? e6 collapses, king f8, knight d4, and it's pretty smooth. Rook e6 is a nice move. Everything collapses in Vincent Keimer's position. And he was just unable to bounce back. Fabiano forces a draw here in a totally winning position. He, of course, could have played queen e4, rook f1, king f1. If you're wondering why he did this, this is actually a very common thing in chess. When you are just needing a draw, and particularly when the game is not even rated, it's very normal to just force a draw when you have it, because you know it ends the match. And also you know that your opponent kind of played poorly because they were in a must-win situation. Does that make sense? Maybe not. You always play to win. Well, then we'll see you at this tournament. Fabiano Caruana gets third place. He gets a lot of points for the tour. Also, he qualifies for Las Vegas. So Fabiano, Hikaru, and Magnus are going to play in Las Vegas. I have no idea who else is going to play in Las Vegas. It seems like the rules change kind of event to event, and so does the qualification, if I'm being honest. So I don't exactly know. But I know for a fact that they already changed the time control. That was already announced, and they're going to play 2 classical games a day. It's not even classical. It's like 45-minute. And now I will show you what happened for 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th. And then you can go about your day and maybe buy a ticket for the event in the European Tour. So this opening was very similar to this opening, except here we got d5 and queen d6 from Maxime. By the way, Maxime has to win. Arjun Erigaisi was the winner of the first game for the battle for 5th place. Arjun got out to a position that looked good, but a lot of space was given to Maxime. And then queen b4 was played. This was a very, very complicated back and forth game. Queen and bishop battery was created by Arjun on the left side of the board. Then he tried to rip open the position on the right side with moves like f4, knight f2, and g4, sacrificing a pawn. I mean, this is crazy. Arjun is such a creative player. Knight to e4, looking at knight d6, knight f6, rook b1 to get in on the b file was good as well. Like knight d6 is possible. Queen c5 was a mistake. Apparently the best move was knight here, king d7, knight b5 with an attack on the e7 knight. Black would have went here. I think Erigaisi didn't like this because he has to trade the queen. I don't really know why he didn't like it. That was apparently the best way to play. This is wrong because now the white queen, although it infiltrates the black position, is dangerously placed. But bishop d6 comes in, skewering the queen to the rook. You can't take it with the knight because the white queen would take the queen, but a counterattack on the queen. Now we trade queens, and Erigaisi in this game was doing very well. But suddenly Maxime roared back. He took on c4, and then he got rid of white's attack, and then he played d3, and here things got really weird. So we got rook back to f4, bishop d5, trading off the white bishop in the corner that hasn't even moved. But the bishop doesn't have to be taken, because the rook attacks the knight and attacks the other knight. So the other knight goes back to the center. Now we trade the bishops. MVL takes with the pawn, double D pawns, targeting here, opening up this rook. This rook pressures this pawn. This is checkmate, by the way, just in case you're wondering, with the white king stuck in the center. And Maxime was down a pawn, but had very good piece coordination. Then he won his pawn back. Then he won a second pawn, but then Erigaisi won a pawn in the center. I mean, this position was like super, super goofy. And now it was basically, can Maxime put enough pressure in the endgame because white's pawn structure is just bad, right? And yeah, the computer evaluated this endgame as always better for black. And maybe Maxime could have done a little bit more here. Like here, the best move, f4, king f5, and I don't, maybe like instead of trading the rooks, it wanted him to like play rook d6, knight f6, just kind of like long term, put some sort of pressure on the position, but he trades rooks, and this is just not enough. This is not enough to win, and this is a drawing setup. Bishop g3 is a brilliant defensive move, by the way. Look at this. If takes here, and you win the other pawn, this is the only way to defend yourself, and now this is a perfect fortress. And Erigaisi defends the position very nicely, and remember, he had to hold the position, so he gets fifth. He gets fifth place in Paris. Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Nodirbek has to win. Jan has the white pieces, and this game was totally different. I mean, Jan played knight f3, d4, and castled. So Jan just basically turned this into some sort of Catalan. This just basically looks like a Catalan, except the queens are kind of on the wrong squares. Nodirbek has to win, which means he has to play very provocatively. He tried his best, but unfortunately, like I said, to get sometimes a winning position, you have to get a losing position first. Yeah, he just kind of got a worse position. And Nepo played well, traded the pieces, and like rook c2, rook c1, right? Just kind of like, I'm not going to do anything now. Nodirbek continued to provoke. He gave up the bishop pair, but yeah, there's just absolutely nothing. Nodirbek tried rook and bishop endgame, trying to make something happen. Jan playing very nicely, and even here, with Nodirbek having an extra rook, the position is unwinnable because he has a weakness, another weakness, and white has two passed pawns. And actually, what happens all the way down until the end, here's something very interesting happens. Of course, black cannot win. White defends everything, and this is a, you know, this is actually a drawn endgame with perfect play with black, but Nodirbek just resigned. And Jan beats Nodirbek back-to-back with 30-minute time advantages in both games. Jan is like I said, Jan is a nightmare opponent. He really is. He's so hard to play. He's so fast. He's so resourceful. But he finishes, I believe he finishes in 7th, actually. Not even in 8th. Which is, yeah, which is wild. He gets 7th, Nodirbek gets 8th, and 9th, 10th was Prague and Report, and Vidit and Gukesh in the bottom 2. Now, there are 4 players, as far as I understand, already confirmed for the Las Vegas tournament. So your standings are here. I don't know if there's going to be an overall standings of the whole thing. But yeah, the 4 players confirmed are Magnus, Hikaru, Fabi, and Gukesh, because Gukesh qualifies to all of the events. And then the top 3 qualify, and then they have some qualification system of like the recent tournament. I think the winner of Norway Chess will qualify. So Norway Chess is an upcoming classical tournament that begins, I think, later this month. That's a very exciting tournament. But it's always tough to know. I mean, I have no idea. And they're making another big change in Vegas, like I've already said, where the tournament will be shortened. Instead of 8 days, it will be 5. And also the time control. So they're going to play 2 games of 45-minute every day. So they're not going to play 90-90. They're going to play 45-minute twice, which is going to be exhausting. It's going to be pretty exhausting for the players, but obviously very exciting. We'll see if we get Hans Niemann back. We still have no update. You know, when this event was announced, I said that it seems like it's quite a serious thing for him. I not to make any posts about it, not to, you know, but hopefully he's doing all right. And the next event is in 3 months in July. So we've got quite some time until then. That's all I have for you today. Tickets for the European tour are in the description. Get out of here.